Welcome back to another episode of The Salty Hose. We are actually together this week, so we get to say, I'm Claire.
And I'm Mel.
And together we are
the
Salty
Hose.
Hose.
And I love how you say we're together because we're actually about half a world apart right now, but we are talking together on the same screen thanks to the magic of the internet.
This is the good part. Yes, we literally are like a world away. You are way, way, way south in the globe, and I'm back in America.
Back in America. How is that going for you, Claire? How's the re-entry been?
You know, I have to say that my brain is not here. My body is here, but my head is somewhere. I'm not quite sure. Maybe Newfoundland or somewhere. It's like slowly catching up.
Stuck somewhere in the middle?
I think so. Like the wee middle place.
Like a migrating bird slowly winging its way back from Ireland.
I love it, and I'll take it. Yes, I think something along those lines. Sometimes it's easier to come back than others. Sometimes I'm like so excited to get back to America, and this time it was just such a good trip, and I felt like I'd been gone for 100 years. So it's a little bit more of a bumpy re-entry, I think.
That sounds like something out of an Irish fairy tale. Like you fell asleep for 100 years and then woke back up in an entirely new world.
Ooh, that would be good. Maybe men would be fixed by then and I could go on dates. That would be lovely.
It's like the fae stole you away and now you're back and it's not.
Somebody make a movie about that, please, where like we can go asleep for 100 years and come back and the men have all went to therapy and there's no more male loneliness epidemic. They've just, addressed the issues.
Do you think they're moving in the right direction or do you think we're regressing?
Maybe a bit of both. I don't know. I mean, I always think that before things change, they get the worst. And I think we're kind of there, perhaps, ? But I also, weirdly, I think on my travels, I had some really positive male experiences, images. Maybe they were just observational. They weren't, sadly, in direct contact with this man. But I don't know. What do you think? Are we getting better? Are we climbing out of this hole yet?
I think it's a mixed bag too. I think some men are definitely getting better and working on that self-improvement and maybe waking up to some things, and others are just digging in their heels and moving backwards.
Yeah, well, hopefully it'll be a great swing, a great change before we come too decrepit to, be in our prime.
Well, I guess that leads to another question. Do you open up the app?
Sadly, no hot action. I can confirm there was zero hot action. I did open up the apps and I was pleasantly surprised. And maybe we can attribute this to the emergence of the beard. I think the beard has done wonders for some mid-men.
I mean, it certainly props up a weak chin. A lot of men, it does dial up that hotness by 2 to 5 notches.
Definitely. It's quite amazing, actually, how that changes things. But there were some good options. But whenever people found out that I lived in Merca, a lot of them just deleted me without conversation. Yeah, I did have one guy who we did actually talk quite a bit, but I can confirm, ladies, that despite what you might see on Instagram and all of those films made about women marrying these gorgeous Irish farmers, that they also lack follow through, just like here in Salt Lake City, Merca. Just apparently they don't want to meet, they just want to chat.
Oh, so it's a global epidemic.
I believe so. Can confirm for at least Ireland and America.
Well, I also open the apps here in Australia just for funsies. My schedule has been, fairly tight. I guess I could blow off friends and go hook up with people, but that's usually not my style. I'd rather hang out with people I already like. So I've been doing that.
This is a good choice.
Yes, but I did take a look on the Tinders, and what I can confirm from my field research here in Australia is that it is remarkably similar to what you would find in Murica on Tinder. Remarkably. Even down, I shit you not, to the fish pics.
Wow. Because we did have a wee text about this, because I was actually pleasantly surprised to see that Ireland had not a lot of fish pics. In lieu of fish pics, there were a lot of pint of Guinness pics, which is fine. I love me a pint of Guinness. But yeah, the quality apparently was pretty similar across the board. So we're sorry, ladies, to tell you that at either end of the globe,
Yeah.
the picture is similar.
Fairly disappointing. I will say, when I was in Italy last winter, the picture quality was fairly high, in that most of the Italian men were A, wearing real clothes, B, seemed to be groomed, and C, had no fish pics. There were some wine pics, which I don't mind. So at least visually it was more pleasing than either America or Australia. But similar to here, I did not message nor hook up with any of them. So who knows?
Oh, well, I'm feeling a salty hose retreat to Italy then. That seems like the best option.
That's right. More research is needed.
Yep. I think we need to go on a scouting trip, and then we'll set up a little retreat.
I love it.
That would be good. Hot men, wine, no fish pics, and pasta. What else could you possibly ever want?
I mean, it sounds like perfection. And even if the men are disappointing, at least we'll have wine and good food.
Exactly. And we can just compare stories and lament into our
Aperol
lovely
spritz.
food and drink.
Perfect.
Oh my God. I love Aperol spritz. It's the perfect accompaniment to any vacation, I feel like. So what are you eating and drinking out there in Australia?
Oh, I mean, definitely a lot of beer and pub food. That seems to be kind of the way of it. Did a couple of fancy dinners that a friend set up in Sydney, both of which were inexplicably 4 hours long, to the point where I was quite surly. I don't know what the issue is, if this is a lack of a tipping culture here, so they just don't care, or that fine dining hasn't quite reached the level of theater like it has in other places. Like, they're trying, but they haven't quite made it yet. I'm not really sure, but it was somewhat disappointing.
Oh, that's too bad. Did you at least get good, like, seafood? Is there a lot of good seafood in Australia?
There is some good seafood, but they're really focused on barramundi, which is a fish that isn't really my favorite. Like, it's okay. It's a mid fish. It's fine. Mm-hmm. I had some mussels that were quite nice here in Cairns.
Ooh, yum. I love mussels. Mussels are a big thing in Ireland too.
Oh,
we like our mussels.
So good. And you know what? They're really easy to make. You should come over and I should make them for you.
Ooh, yum. Yes, I am all over that.
Okay, perfect.
A wee mussels and wine night
Wine
upon
mussels.
your return.
We should get tipsy and record. That would be hilarious.
You know, that is definitely on the list of things to do. We have to have a few tipsy episodes. I think that would be hilarious.
Perfect. All right.
And not hard for me.
Yeah, no, that's true.
Because I'm the lightweight.
You are a bit of a lightweight, but, you know, I believe in myself. I bet I can make it happen too.
Let's do it. You can just pregame before I come over.
Perfect.
So that's good. Well, Mel, tell everybody what we're going to talk about today.
Well, friends, I was so excited when Claire told me that we were going to be talking about mansplaining. So that is our episode.
A topic close to our hearts.
Yes, a prevalent phenomenon that we've all experienced many, many, many times.
Definitely.
In fact, I had a great and extended, prolonged, one might say, experience with that yesterday. Would you like to hear a little about it?
Oh, just yesterday.
Indeed.
What great timing. Thank you, Mr. Man, for giving us really up-to-date material. Okay, share away. I would love to hear.
Okay. So this was a tour that I went on with, I think, 11 other people from our dive group. And unfortunately, I had not sufficiently researched this tour. I just sort of went with the flow. And it turned out to be a bus tour, which I absolutely abhor. I hate that shit. I can't really do it, right? Like, it's got to be a small group tour. We should have done a private one. That's on me. I just kind of like went with it. And then when I walked up and there was a bus, my heart just sank. I was like, oh no. And then it also turned out, because I had read nothing about anything, I just signed up, the tour was 11 hours long. 11.
11? Oh my God.
11 hours. Yes.
Wow.
Visiting a rainforest and doing a saltwater crocodile tour and a couple of other things. But on an 11-hour tour, the majority of it is spent on the bus. And the vast majority of that time on the bus was spent listening to tour guide Michael, who declaimed about many subjects over the course of 11 hours. And rather unfortunately, he decided to talk for probably altogether 2 to 3 hours on subjects that I know extremely well, which would be evolution of animals, plants, other organisms, and the history of life on Earth. So he explained that at some length and egregiously incorrectly, Claire.
Oh my God.
Wild. Oh my God. I want to share a few highlights that I heard yesterday. I won't subject you to the entire history of life on Earth, but it was simply mind-boggling. I cannot even express to you.
A tiny topic to engage with, and it sounds like Mr. Bus Driver was not necessarily qualified, would you say?
No, not at all. And to be fair, he was trying to be quite engaging. He was clearly interested in the topic. Clearly, he had either read or watched a lot of content related to this, but unfortunately, he failed to understand it or synthesize it or recall it, and or really to all of those. Okay, so he is declaiming about something he doesn't understand, but clearly thinks he does. Unfortunately, the topic, the history of life on Earth, evolution, etc., this is a topic I would say that is accessible to a lay audience. You don't need to have a PhD to understand this, but you do need to, at some point, get your facts straight. Did not have the facts straight.
It's always
not even
helpful.
Close. Not even remotely close. So some of the lovely things that I heard yesterday, we started out strong with him explaining how corals, quote, farting out spores was changing weather patterns. Okay. First of all, corals don't produce spores. They're animals. They produce eggs and sperm like you and me. Yeah, how coral spawning affects weather patterns was a little bit unclear to me, but he went on about that in great length. He also talked about how trees and rainforests produce oxygen, which is true, but somehow in his head, and he talked about this for some length, this explains the patterns of hot and cold across planet Earth. So his hypothesis, it sounded like, is that it's warmer at the equator because there are more rainforests producing oxygen, which is just not true. Not even remotely true.
Oh, wow. So, like, not even close.
Not even close. I mean, everything was jumbled and out of order. At one point, he told us that we as humans and all animals and life on Earth descended from 13 trees. Unclear to me if that was 13 individual trees or 13 species of trees. Either way, we did not descend from trees. That is just egregiously wrong, heinously incorrect. But he went on about it for some time.
Wow, I never knew that my ancestors were trees and I somehow became a human from a tree. That's really quite something.
Yeah, we also heard that humans learned to set fires from watching eagles that swoop down upon forest fires, break off burning branches, and then transport them to new locations.
But wait, how did those fires start? I have questions.
I assume naturally, but I mean, as much as I would love to see an eagle flying around with a burning branch in its talons, I really don't think that's how we discovered fire.
Wow, that sounds like a dramatic AI 4th of July image or something, like eagle with burning bush in its beak.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, right? Like, that's a Murica t-shirt, if I ever heard of one.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, it just went on and on, Claire. I could probably spend an hour telling you the incorrect information that this man shared with us. He also had a very environmental bent, which is great. I do agree with that. But somehow he had jumbled this up with holistic wellness and other things to put together a quite bizarre worldview. At one point, he was telling us that rock art by Aborigines is healthy for you because you somehow absorb calcium through your skin when you're doing rock paintings. But on the other hand, deodorant is evil, which it seems like perhaps he practiced what he preached there, because you might
the stench
through the skin. At one of our stops, he grabbed ants off a tree and was trying to get everyone to lick the ant's butthole, his word, because it tastes lemony, which I believe these ants do taste lemony, but he's like, it's cruel to eat the ant, so let's just pass it around and lick its butthole.
Dear God, how would one discover that licking and butthole is lemony?
That's
my God.
Probably some, indigenous knowledge there that you could eat them and they would taste lemony. Like, well, butthole was just fantastic for all of us.
Wow, did anybody try?
Yeah, there were some people not in our group that were licking the ant. And then we sort of finished off with a long, jumbled dissertation on cancer and how indigenous people don't get cancer, which is not true, and how you should call your grandparents, and something about free radicals. He asked if anyone on the bus knew what free radicals and amino acids are, which I do, but I put my hand up, but he was like, I thought so, no one ever knows. I was like, yeah, I'm not gonna go grab his microphone and start telling him about him. Anyway, so it turned into a long rambling thing about how you should call your grandmother and your grandfather, and how oxidative stress was giving you cancer, and how some people just like to talk and never ever listen. And we're all like, case in point.
Wow. You had to go through that for 11 hours.
It honestly
oh my God.
felt longer than the flight to Australia.
I'm sure it did. My God. And I'm still also trying to figure out how on a little ant you would even discern a butthole.
Well, you can't really see it with your naked eye. They're fairly long ants, but I think if you just lick the back half of it.
Yeah.
I mean, ants.
Well, guess what I'm going to be doing?
Ants do have an anus, so at least that was one thing he was right about. One of the very few things he was right about in ours yesterday.
Yes, ants have a butthole. Cannot confirm if it's lemony or not, but sounds delightful. I hope it is.
Yeah, he also had many interesting things to share about gender roles, but I think at this point I sort of dissociated because I just couldn't take.
That sounds like quite a day. I'm sure you had to come and just stare at the wall after that or
absolutely.
something to
It was hellacious.
Well, I think it brings up a good point about mansplaining generally is the confidence factor. Is that something like that you see in circumstances like that? And generally it's like the delivery is done with like great confidence.
So that's exactly it. And that's why I'm using this as an example of mansplaining, right? Because he wasn't talking to me personally. He didn't know my background because I wasn't going to talk to him and share that. So it wasn't like, kind of the classic case where someone's explaining to a woman with more knowledge and credentials than him something. I mean, he was, but without knowing it, he was explaining this to a whole bus full of people. But it was really the confidence with which he was delivering this completely incorrect misinformation. Like he understood it all and he was explaining it all to us and he was just way off base. So that's why I would classify this as mansplaining.
Wow. Yes, I would imagine if the roles were reversed and say, for example, there was a young woman doing this 11-hour bus tour diatribe, I would imagine that probably A, that wouldn't have happened to begin with, and B, if there had been a man with your credentials on the bus, he would have been openly correcting at every turn, or perhaps even not a qualified man may have been correcting at every turn based on their YouTube knowledge. So I think there's a definite observable data point there in terms of the audacity, the confidence, whatever you want to call it.
Oh, absolutely. In Sydney, I did a wildlife tour, which was just 5 people, a fairly lengthy tour. And we had a lovely female tour guide, Emily. Emily stuck to her lane. She only talked about things she knew about, and everything she said, as far as I could tell, was factually correct.
Wow, what a wonder cat. That's amazing.
I
Look how
know.
simple it is.
Right?
Oh my God. It makes me think of a few years ago, my oldest daughter was applying for this artist in residence. And part of it was you worked at this coffee shop as well. And she was not going to apply because she didn't know how to do latte art. And I was like, I'm so sure you could learn. Like, I'm so sure that you could even send your application. It's not something I've done before, but, I will do A, B, or C in training. And she almost didn't apply. Turns out she got the artist in residence, had a great time, became a master at latte art. But at the time I said to her, if you were like a middle-aged man, you would probably claim to own a coffee plantation.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
It's just like that level of confidence. And she was downplaying everything that she knew. And yet, if it had been a middle-aged man, I would put money on it that there would be a brimming over of confidence and quote unquote knowledge.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I think, unfortunately, I don't have the studies or figures in front of me, but I think people have done these social science studies where they look at what jobs men and women apply for. And women are hesitant to apply for jobs they don't meet every single qualification or preferred qualification, whereas men will just throw their CV or resume in whether they meet any of the qualifications or not.
Yeah, if they just want it, they'll do it. And that's it.
Yeah, and I really think maybe we could meet somewhere in the middle, like maybe not so much unearned confidence for some of our male friends and a little more confidence for some of our women. So I love that you were able to talk your daughter into applying for that. If she didn't have you, she probably never would have done it and then would have missed out on that wonderful opportunity.
Yeah, I agree. Like a middle place would be lovely. And, there even are studies done on mansplaining because it is so frequent an occurrence. And a lot of the studies have found that there is a negative impact on women in terms of how they will minimize themselves. They maybe won't go up for promotions at work. They maybe won't share ideas, which in the end ends up hurting everybody. But mansplaining, it can be a funny joke, but I think it can also have more serious consequences in the workplace or even in the context of relationships and women minimizing themselves.
Oh, I completely agree. I think we sometimes shrink ourselves a little bit to...
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I mean, definitely more in my younger days than today when I was a little short on confidence in the workplace or in relationships. But definitely, yeah, if a man comes in strong with a lot of confidence, even when you know he's wrong, it can sometimes be intimidating or now maybe just not worth the bother of confronting it.
I definitely relate to that idea of moving into the realm of resignation so that, you're just like, oh, I can't be bothered.
Yeah.
I'm just not gonna.
I don't have enough time or energy to explain to you how wrong you are and in how many ways. Yep.
Just roll your eyes so far to the back of your head, it's not even normal, and be like, oh my God. But again, it discourages collaboration. It discourages conversation and ideas and exchanges. And it's always boggled my mind that men love to explain things so much, but they never ask questions.
Yeah, that's a really good point, especially when you're on a date or whatever, and the whole point is to get to know each other. And you're like, why am I asking all the questions? And in fact, carrying the entire conversation, unless it's one of those dates where they get on their hobby horse and decide to lecture you about whatever.
Oh my God. Has that happened to you? Can you remember instances?
Oh, I was actually talking about the guy that was mansplaining vaccines to you. That anecdote that we shared on the podcast a while ago.
Oh my God, Mr. Man with a business degree that was explaining vaccines. Yep.
Yeah, amazing.
I remember that. That is burned into my brain. Yes, that was, I mean, I don't know anything about vaccines either, but I would not profess to know anything about vaccines, and that is the difference.
That sounds like you definitely didn't know anything about them.
Oh,
do you have any other examples that come to mind?
I've definitely experienced it on dates. I actually thought about a date that I had. And I also just wonder why men have thunderous voices when they're doing it as well. Because, yeah.
Yeah, you're not wrong. The decibel level seems to go up when they're explaining something to you.
100%. It's like the pontification level voice increases. And this was a date. I've actually stopped. Like, if anybody asks me where to go or to meet, I am taking out my favorite places because it ruins them forever.
100%.
So, yep, no more going to the favorite places. And this was like at my favorite coffee shop, and we were sitting outside. This coffee shop is so wonderful. Like, it's always packed inside and out, has a great outdoor seating area. And we were talking, and somehow we got into talking about the genocide in Gaza, which I know is probably not everybody's first date kind of topic, and maybe this is why I don't have a lot of dates, because of the things that come up in conversation. But he decided to talk about this very loudly.
Oh, no.
And just full of inaccuracies. And, well, have you considered, looking at this area or, that area? And
gross.
I've definitely done a lot of work in the area of genocide scholarship. I wouldn't call myself an expert by any means, but dude here was just doing the CNN version. What struck me the most was it just wasn't dialogue. Like, we could have had a conversation about it. I had no desire to pontificate or flex, like, hey, you want to hear my knowledge? Like, we were just talking, and a conversation would have been amazing, but it wasn't a conversation. It was just lecturing. Like, it was like you were in a lecture hall.
Yeah, and I would just, to back up a little bit, you say you're not a genocide expert, but you have way more expertise than whoever this man was. Professional expertise. You are credentialed, right? You have actual academic experience in this field, whether or not you're one of the world's experts. Whereas I would venture to say that this man lecturing you did not.
I mean, that's fair. I believe he was like an engineer from what I remember. And the interesting part is we'd done the little exchange of, what do you do? What are your, so it was something before that he knew that I had a little bit of experience in, but it seems to elevate them. I also had, this is a non-dating experience, but this one was really interesting. On my wee travels, when I was staying on my little island adventure, I met this lovely couple from Sweden, and they were older, probably retired, like 70s, and wee artsy, cute couple. She was really sweet, chatting away about textiles because she was like a textile artist. And then her husband entered the room, and he was asking where I was from, and I was like, oh, I live in Salt Lake City, but I'm originally from Belfast. And he, look of horror when I shared my place of birth. And he goes, oh, the 6 counties, which is how some people will refer to the north of Ireland. And I was like, sure, yeah. I mean, people don't typically refer to it as that. And he said, well, this would be the experience of growing up in that area, and told me what that would be like. And I was like, okay. And I just listened. It went on for several minutes. And, I was like, sure, yeah. I mean, I grew up there in the 70s, 80s, 90s. But
oh my
just
God.
No, yeah.
So he was
no
telling
acknowledgement.
You what it was like to grow up in the place you grew up.
Yes.
That is insane.
What he would have imagined.
You're like, I was actually there, dude.
I know. And it's like, again, this is the part that really boggles my mind, is he used some anecdotal evidence from people from the area that he had talked to or bumped into on travels. But why is that not shared in like a, oh yeah, I also bumped into people from there. Was this true for you? Or,
Exactly.
Why is it never like a question?
It could have been an interesting conversation, it sounds like.
Yes. And I think that's the part that really boggles my brain about it, is we could share this information together and have a really good conversation, but what is it within the soul of a man that makes him feel like he has to start explaining?
Yes. And I mean, here, once again, I am going to say not all men. And I am going to say that sometimes women do this too.
Oh, yeah.
So just disclaimer for everyone out there. We're not saying it's 100%, but it is a lot of them. I think this is something we've talked about before. This has a lot to do with conditioning, like how we are brought up in our gender roles that somehow reaches this interesting apotheosis in men confidently explaining things that we know better than they do to us.
Yeah, I think, and just maybe wonderment on their part that the ladies can know things. And I think of one of my early experiences of mansplaining, which maybe I couldn't articulate what it was at that point, but I was in my 20s and we had just, like late 20s, we had just bought this house that we did a lot of renovations to. And there was a little house beside it that was for sale. And I was out in my garden and there was a man looking to buy the house. He actually did end up buying the house next door. And he was asking me some questions about landscaping that we had done. And we'd built this sort of big deck over this little stream or creek that we had in our garden. And he was asking how. And I said, so we put down like a permeable membrane. And he goes, wait. How do you know that word?
Are you fucking serious?
And I said, well, actually, it's 2 words.
And I know both of them.
Yes.
Wow.
Do you want me to say them again? And I was like, wait, what? I couldn't understand that after I'd shared all these important details that his focus was on, and he said out loud, how do you know that word? Again, 2 words, but let's not split hairs. It was like one of the first experiences that really stands out where I was just like, oh, do I look like, what does a person look like that doesn't know the phrase permeable membrane?
Apparently,
I don't know.
It's a person who projects as female.
I guess so. And a young female, at the time. So, yeah.
I mean, it's
very interesting.
Particularly galling to me, given that, at least in the United States, women are achieving higher education at higher rates than men. Permeable membrane in a garden, but just like in general. In general, this like perception that women can't know things when we are achieving more of the college degrees.
Yeah, and like maybe it is some weird insecurity there. One interesting incongruent detail I'll bring up about that is the man who told me about the vaccines on the date later told me that I wasn't really dateable because oh
my God,
I'm not dateable. But the rationale was interesting. He said that I may appear intimidating to some, not to him, but that would be a possibility that would make me undateable. So I was like, well, which one is it? Like, am I going to get a lecture or do I need to dumb myself down a little bit more? And like, the funny thing is, Melissarella, is that on the course of those dates, I remember speaking about 10 words because I couldn't get a word in.
You're like, well, someone here is undateable.
And honestly, I think that the majority of my words were centered around my defense of eating bread, that he was also very anti-carb. And so like, it's not even like I was trying to share any, what you would suggest could be perceived as highbrow information. It was like, I like bread. Like,
I learned on my tour yesterday, white flour causes cancer. So maybe he was onto something there.
He could have been warning me. Okay, we'll take it as a warning. Oh, dear God. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, apparently there are, if we want to look at like not a metric, but I guess a definition for this, there are core characteristics of mansplaining identified.
I love it.
And they're in, 3 areas. And maybe we could, go through them and perhaps recount any experiences related to these areas. So one of the core characteristics of mansplaining is unsolicited advice. So the bread one and the white flour from Bus Tour Man would definitely fit into it. So offering explanations or instructions when they were neither asked for or needed. Have you had any experiences like that?
Yeah, I definitely have. One that sort of just jumped to mind was once when I was at the climbing gym and I was climbing with a female friend, just doing the normal top ropey thing, nothing too weird. And I had this man approach me quite aggressively about some gear that was slung on the side of my harness. It was just a couple beaners and a sling, and I had put it on one of my gear loops off to the side. I wasn't using it. It was just sitting there. And he had a very aggressive conversation with me about how that was racked on my harness. And he kept saying, "That's dangerous." And I was like, "Buddy, I'm not using this gear right now. It's just like on my harness out of the way." Right? Because it was on my belay loop and I just moved it to the back so it was out of my way. I'm like, "I am not using this gear right now." And he's like, I could be saving your life. Like, this is not how you do this. I'm like, "I know. I'm aware. I'm not using this gear right now. It's just sitting there so I don't throw it on the ground and forget to pick it up later." Around this tree for quite some time as he explained to me that this was not how you put a sling on your harness. I'm like, I fucking know. Oh my
God, you're like, not using it. I'm not using it.
Yeah, sing it right now. Calm down. Finally, like, I'm done talking to you. Yeah.
You're like, please leave me alone.
Stop.
I mean, not asked for, and then to keep going on. I do think, I know that's a climbing gym, but in those kinds of places, it's a frequent occurrence.
It can be. Yeah, I haven't had it happen for a while at the regular gym, and maybe it's because the places I go to are more proactive about not allowing it. Like at one of the gyms I go to, it's posted on the wall that nobody needs your unsolicited advice. I forget how they say it, but it's like, just basically leave people alone.
So yeah, clearly this is a frequent enough phenomena that signs need to be made at some gyms for it. I'm not a big frequenter of a gym type place these days, but definitely in times when I have definitely been approached with, well, you could do it this way or you could do it that way. And I mean, I guess that's why a lot of gyms do have female only spaces in them. I mean, I know there's other factors and reasons for that, but we would just like peace to work out, please.
Yeah, I mean, some of it's the creepiness, not just the unsolicited advice. And sometimes I think that unsolicited advice is not so much mansplaining as it is the entree to hitting on a woman.
Yeah, it can definitely be the gateway into
exactly
hitting on a person. That is for sure. So, and I think this is it's a general life thing. Unsolicited advice is never fun coming from anybody, but particularly if it's coming from a place of thinking they need to provide instruction to the little lady, I mean,
it's wild.
Please don't.
Because I would never think of approaching a man or a woman and being like, "Hey, maybe you should do it this way," or like, "Let me correct your form." It's not my business.
100%. And honestly, when I'm involved of any kind of physical activity, I'm mostly just fighting for my life, and I don't really have the wherewithal to look around and see what's happening. But yeah, if I was not teaching but just in a yoga class, I would never be like, "Hey buddy, your knee's coming into the center too much, like draw it out to your hip." Like that would just be egregious. And like I say, I don't even think I would even notice.
I had a male yoga teacher come up to me once in a yoga class and actually push my hips down in downward facing dog so that my heels were flat to the floor. And it hurt so badly that I didn't go back to yoga for years.
Yeah, we don't do that in yoga anymore because we find out that's very bad. Like, bodies are different, and you should never, ever, ever, ever do that. That's why I never do hands-on assists, because we're just moving, lads. It's not that serious.
Oh, he didn't even ask. No consent. Just grab my hips, which kind of a sensitive area, and push them down, and it felt like Achilles were going to snap. It was so painful.
My God. That is, yeah. I mean, I think that constitutes physical mansplaining. No words were needed, but, you know, that was not needed, brother.
No.
Not needed.
Yeah, that was 20 years ago me. Today me would have caused a big scene and reported it to the gym owners. Just quietly disappeared from yoga for several years.
Oh my God. I hate that. And you can't be blamed for that either, because things like that, no matter how strong we might feel they are, they can really catch you off guard. And you're kind of like, wait, did that just happen? Like, shocking. It can be shocking, which leads to the next core characteristic of mansplaining, which is presumed inferiority. So the explanation is typically driven by an unconscious assumption that the man possesses superior knowledge simply because of his gender.
Oh my.
So much to say here. I mean, fellas, it's 2026. Like, how do we respond? I mean, we've talked about this a little bit. Do we flex back? Do we smirk? Do we eye roll? Do we tell them they're so clever? Like, how? What do we do?
I don't know. I mean, roll my eyes, not respond. There's that one kind of like famous tweet that I've seen on the internet a million times from this woman. She's like, I like to pretend they're a toddler that's just really excited to share something they learned. And so I treat them as such. Like, good job, buddy. Wow, that's a really interesting fact you told me. So I kind of like that, because that's flipping it on its end. I haven't really done that in real life, but yeah, I don't know. How do you handle it?
I love that one. I'm going to try that next. Yeah, it's like, you know, when your toddler tells you the sky is blue and you're like, oh my God, that's amazing. And, you know, I do fear that a lot of them would probably not even catch on and be like, yeah, I'm pretty smart, you know?
Yeah,
but
I think a lot of them would miss the sarcasm altogether.
I think amazing. So. I actually know a lot of stuff.
Thanks for
my mom
noticing.
told me. Yeah, maybe it is an age thing. I would also tend to fall on the side of just like, whatever, dude. Like, I don't know if this is just a personality thing or a this point in life thing, or maybe a combo of the both. But like, I just never feel that compelled to prove myself.
100%. I'm just so over it. Like, the energy to correct someone is just not there most of the time. I mean, sometimes it has to be. Like, if it comes up in one of the classes I teach, then you can't really let it go. You have to actually confront it.
Yeah.
Most of the time, it's like, I don't have the time or energy to engage with you.
Yeah, and especially in a dating context, it's like an instant ick for me.
Yeah.
And, you know, I check out at that point and just sip on my drink or whatever.
Thank you,
and
next.
Just, is over until they stop. So.
And then make a hasty exit.
Well, the third core characteristic is a condescending tone. So speaking down to someone or over-explaining a concept regardless of the other person's actual level of expertise. And I really like this one because I've seen this funny reel that goes around the interwebs that talks about explaining, like one of the lines in it is like explaining to a woman who has a literal PhD in this area. And, you know, like, have you come across that as a woman with a lot of qualifications and a title, like an obvious title, you know, just, I mean, I remember one time you mentioned on a dating app, you had a man like set you a quiz or like a test.
Oh, yeah, I think I talked about that in a previous episode, but yeah, that was the acrostic that he wanted me to decipher. You're like, yeah, buddy, I passed third grade. I know how to, you know, read capital letters at the beginning of each word. Thanks.
He's like, Well done, little lady. You're a clever one, you are.
Oh my God. That was the one, remember, I didn't talk to for like 48 hours. And then he sent me that message saying, you're not up to my standards to date, even though he was the one that like initiated all the interaction. There was that one. He was definitely full of himself. I did have someone on a date try to mansplain that evolution wasn't real to me, which is one of one of the fields I have an advanced degree in. So that was fun. He kept saying, oh, it's just a theory. It's just a theory. And you're like, well, theory means something different in science than what it means in just our common, speech. Like, it means that this is a concept with a really big body of evidence behind it. It has predictive power. It's unlikely to prove it false. And he's like, well, but it's just a theory. It's just a theory. It's just a theory. I'm like, yeah, that's what we have. Like, that's like the theory of gravity, right? Like the germ theory of disease. Like all these things are theories. Like you can never absolutely 100% prove something formally true, but this is the closest we've got in science. Theory of evolution, same thing. And anyway, he just wanted to argue, and I was finally like, okay, I gotta go. Bye.
Wow.
Bye now.
Again, that could be a great conversation of, asking, like, oh, this is really interesting to me. What do you think about this? Or, wow, clearly you have expertise in this field. So, like this isn't about a flex.
Sure.
We're not suggesting we want to flex and go on dates and just talk about all our knowledge, but it's so layered because it's not just explaining, it's an entire approach, you could argue, of conversating, or not.
And this actually, since it was a date, this could even be as simple as, look, I have religious beliefs that don't allow me to accept your field of expertise. Like, I don't believe in evolution. Okay, this person is wrong, but at least we could be like, you know what, we're not compatible because our worldviews are just too different. We could have just left it at that.
Yeah.
He didn't explain to me why it was wrong and it was just a theory and it wasn't true. Like, we could have just parted ways amicably.
I'd just been like, yeah, not a match. Good luck to you, kind sir.
Exactly.
But yeah. And also the idea of that maybe in some way he could actually convince you of the error of your ways.
He's like, well, maybe if I just talk louder and repeat this for the 10th time, she's going to get it.
My God. You're like, please don't. Oh my God.
Oh, it's so...
It really is. Well, where does it come from? I always want to know the why. Like, where does this come from? And I guess the compassionate view comes from some kind of factor outside of them just trying to be a douche, right? Like, maybe there are social factors, particularly if you are or were immersed or brought up in like Mormonism, which is very certain, right? And also an emphasis on male superiority and knowledge and even power. They're taught from a very young age. So, I guess it's behavior that stems from several interconnected factors that are bigger than just an individual.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think let's go through them, maybe starting with the most benign and then moving up to the least benign. What do you think about that?
I think that's a great idea to start us off with the least benign.
Most benign was how I was going to go.
Or we'll
work
yes.
our way up. So like the best possible scenario, best case scenario. Okay.
Yes.
So
yes.
We already mentioned that like some of this comes from social conditioning, right? And I think maybe one of the things like at play is a lot of men get a lot of praise as they're growing up, or expressing their opinion, or like maybe getting something right. I think women are taught more to minimize themselves, and so this could actually be quite benign. Like men are like, oh, people like to hear my opinion. Like I was praised for this growing up, or maybe I have a degree and like I was praised for like knowing the right answer or expressing my opinion or whatever. I got some positive reinforcement. And so they continue to do it because they want that positive reinforcement. It's something that is kind of wired into their brain from an early age. I have one very benign story to share about that, if it's okay. So this was a friend who has a PhD, is very knowledgeable about this subject. And for some reason we were talking about, oh, I know, because we both played a geography game from time to time. And so we were talking about that, and I was like, we were mentioning like, oh God, China borders so many countries. And one of the ones I listed was Afghanistan. And he was like, no, like China doesn't border Afghanistan. I'm like, no, it definitely does, at least according to the map I looked at it. So this game, and so we had an argument about it for like a few minutes. And I was like, well, look it up. Like, just, we don't have to argue. It was a, benign, well-intentioned, like not an actual dispute, right? So we looked it up, and I'm right. Okay, they do share a land border. Great. Okay, fantastic. Takes the feedback, moves on. A year later, for some reason, we're having a similar conversation, and he's like, well, did you know that China shares a land border with Afghanistan? I was like, I'm going to fucking cut you. Do you not remember the argument we had about this 1 year ago in which I made you look it up? Nope.
Wow.
But
and with the preface of, did you know?
Yeah, but at least this was funny, and the motivation was benign, right? He just wanted to share this fact. We were sharing facts. It's funny. It's still mansplaining, but it's funny.
Yes. Oh my God.
So I think there's some of that. They want a pat on the head, right? They want a pat on the head. They're used to getting it. So, okay, so that's the most benign.
Yeah, I think that is so true, because we have often talked about how the bar is so low and men will get praise for spending a night with their children.
Oh, yes.
Versus the work that women put in. And so, yeah, we can't necessarily blame them, because it's like those studies with like rats and pellets, right? Like they get the pellet of the good boy. So they are basically conditioned to perform, I guess, in some ways.
Yeah, they're chasing that high, and you really can't blame them. Mm-hmm. I mean, we like things that get a positive response, we do that behavior again. And so maybe it's that plus not reading the room very well and not realize that you're actually being like annoying or overstepping the limits of your actual expertise compared to the woman that you're talking to.
Yeah. Wow. Yes. Oh, okay. What's the next one?
Well, I was going to ask you the same question. Let's take it up a notch. A little bit less benign.
I think the source is really the same. So it's like behavioral psychology, which is not either of our things, but it indicates that men sometimes subconsciously assume that women possess less competence in certain subjects, and leading to this sort of unsolicited guidance. And I thought about you in this, because I don't know if this assumption is correct, but I would assume maybe in sort of more sciencey areas that maybe it's more male dominated. So would that be something you would come across a little bit more maybe?
I would guess so. I mean, I guess we don't have the actual data comparing, like, say, a female English professor or humanities professor to a female science professor, but I would imagine that probably a little bit so. Like, men, like you said, have this idea that they have more expertise generally, and then on top of that, there is also this bias that women are less good at things like math and science. Now, in biology, that's probably less true than it is in the, quote, harder sciences like physics and chemistry. I would imagine than probably mathematics in the worst, right? I'd imagine they encounter even more of that than I would in biology, but yeah, you certainly get that. I also would say that biology, everyone's seen, like, you know, Blue Planet or Planet Earth. They're like some of these shows, and like everybody's read headlines. So everybody kind of feels like they have some biological knowledge, and they probably do. But some men think that makes them qualified to, you know, correct or explain or lecture women, even women that have PhDs in that exact field. My favorite example of this isn't even from me, but it was kind of this like Twitter brouhaha about 10 years ago where this man, uncredentialed man, at least in the field of medicine and biology, argued for some time, like a day, back and forth, with an actual gynecologist about the difference between the vulva and the vagina. It was magnificent.
Oh. And again, it's that confidence factor, right?
Yes.
Like, wow. Wow.
Isn't that amazing?
Oh my God.
And like,
that is wild.
Just kept doubling down. Would not accept the correction. Just kept doubling down, down and down and down. So funny.
That is, yeah, like that's sort of the case where I'm like, should I be impressed here that this person is not actually mortified by,
right?
Like
just
spiting
incredible.
inaccuracies?
Yeah.
Like, holy shit. Like, I don't know if it's just I have struggled with imposter syndrome for so long, or even things I know I might know about, and you're tread carefully, but like it just, that level of, well, I'm pretty certain I know. And then the lack of mortification and the aftermath is bizarre. It reminds me of, sounds like a similar thing. I think it was up in Idaho, and it was a legislative change around abortion. And they were talking about ascertaining the gestation of the fetus. Mm-hmm. And one of the lawmakers, in all seriousness, was like, well, we just have a woman swallow a camera like you do when you go for like a gut health check.
That's right, I remember that.
Do you remember?
I do.
And again, there was like a woman, and she was a gynecologist, and she was so kind. Like, she was not like, you dumb bitch. She was like, sir, those are two different systems within the body. You cannot see, the reproductive system from the gut. And he was like, sure you can.
I have a follow-up question for this man. I assume that because he's an Idaho legislator, he's probably married. He probably has a wife.
Oh, yeah.
Has he been fucking her in the butt? I'm confused.
Or the belly button? Like, what is he doing?
This poor woman.
I know. You're just like, dear God, like, there's so many layers there.
You're like, from him.
I know. You're like, can safely assume, bless this poor woman. Oh my God. Like, and again, the doubling down when you have been very gently corrected, like very gently corrected.
Yeah, the gentle feedback that I feel goes over their heads.
It's wild. Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah.
I did just want to mention, too, one more thing while we're talking about bias. Now, again, I'm not a behavioral psychologist, and I don't know how well validated these implicit bias studies are. Like, I know I've done some of these trainings, quote unquote, like around implicit bias, but is that women also show the same internalized sexist bias simply because patriarchy is so pervasive.
Yeah, it's the systems have made us believe that maybe even though we have studied something for a very long time, that, yeah, maybe we're not equipped. And that's maybe indicative of that confidence issue, of speaking out about things that you know about. So, yeah, it's definitely, I think internalized misogyny is very real.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, just wanted to throw that in before we moved up our scale to the least benign of the factors that enable.
Drum roll. Yeah. Give it to us, Melissa. Well, what is it?
I mean, I think that it's just kind of a raw display of power, right? Like, this is a man, he may not even care if he's right or not. He's just purely asserting his dominance over a woman.
Yeah. I've definitely experienced this. I want to call it like mansplaining inception, because it was just like layered in just so many levels. I have definitely, in the context of like dating and relationships, at least like two men have, I've shared something about what I've been talking about or writing about or researching about, and it's been met with, oh yeah, well, are you telling people about how hard it is to be a man these days?
Oh my God.
And you're like, oh dear God, like, here we go. And it's aggressive though. And that's like the point I want to make here, that I think you could suggest, like, see, I'm already like providing evidence here of just something that I have actually experienced, which I guess speaks that internalized misogyny. But that power dynamic, because it wasn't even, again, delivered as a question. It was actually, in some cases, quite aggressive. Like, well, I hope you're presenting the full story to people here, young lady, and you're like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yes. Accountability, sir, does not mean that you are discriminated against.
Yeah, agreed. Okay, so we've moved from maybe a man is trying to be helpful, maybe he's trying to get a pat on the head, up to just an implicit bias that he may not be fully aware of, to I am fully asserting my dominance over you, a lowly woman. Okay.
Yeah.
Benign mansplaining all the way up to hostile mansplaining.
Yes, and everything in between. So maybe just stop, period.
Yeah. Maybe just, I know asking questions is hard, but maybe you ask yourself a question. Is my feedback wanted? Is my feedback needed? Is my feedback helpful in this situation?
Maybe we should make like wee credit card sized prompt sheet so they could put it in their wallet with those questions on it.
Oh, and I've seen these things online, like the little flow charts, right? That are basically like, has the woman asked for this information? Yes? Okay, go ahead. No, you're mansplaining. Please stop.
I mean, something tells me that maybe they may have to mansplain issues with said flowchart, and that may not be effective. And yeah, going back into that mansplaining inception again. So, wow.
You know, really, like the pinnacle of that would be mansplaining why they're not currently mansplaining at that time.
They've reached the arc at that point. They're just like, wow.
To circle back to something you asked earlier, maybe this is actually the move, is just tell them they're mansplaining and watch them fucking crash out. Because in my experience, every man, no matter how benign, if you tell them they're mansplaining, will lose their shit.
Oh my God. Yeah, I don't even know if I have really directly sort of leveled that accusation against somebody. So I'm going to try that. There will be no shortage of opportunities, I'm sure.
You could even phrase it as a question. You could be like, are you mansplaining right now? And then when they crash out, you can be like, I'm just asking questions.
Yeah, that's it. Very, very simple strategy. So, yeah, solutions. Maybe the solutions lie in a flowchart, a handy flowchart, or maybe just like cultivating the art of conversation again. Like maybe nobody needs to be told anything. Like, you know, maybe it can all just be framed in a question or, wow, that's an interesting perspective. I hadn't thought about it like that before. Or, you know, if I was a man at this point, I could argue the meaning of the word benign with you, because
of course
that is a word I always confuse in my head. And as I just did there, I'll say it the opposite. I don't know why I get that confused in my brain, but I would imagine I could have fought you on that if I was a man.
Maybe we
but I will
play for a future episode.
I love that idea. I will just humbly acknowledge that I always fuck that up and I get it back to front in my brain. So yeah, benign is definitely the word you want to hear always in any context. So yeah.
Oh, wow. All right. Well, Claire, I have a plane to catch fairly soon. So any last things we should discuss before I get out of here?
Well, may all the deities of the earth bless you for your devotion to the Salty Host podcast by taking some time when I know you've been so busy packing up, ready to leave. So thank you for your service, Melissarella.
Oh, my dear, I have missed you so much. I can't wait until we are back to our regularly scheduled recording sessions.
Preferably in the same space. Like, we haven't actually seen each other for probably coming up on like 4 weeks.
Yeah, definitely. That's terrible.
My God.
I hate that for us.
Oh, I miss you.
I miss you too, my dear.
Well, safe travels. Anything you want to conclude about mansplaining, about life in general? Any wise words?
Stop mansplaining, man. That's all I have to say.
Yes,
just
please.
Stop it. Ask questions.
Oh, for the love of God, please ask some questions. Even like, are you cold? Start with the basics.
Right, that's right. Again, practice with your male friends. If you don't have male friends, make some.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. Go from there. Baby steps.
That baby steps. What a beautiful world that would be for all of us. And yeah, I feel like it's one of your famous claps are needed. Stop.
Yeah.
Stop.
No,
just stop.
We're not doing this.
Oh, for the love of God, stop and make it a better world for all. Deep dive into the mansplaining, more conversation, less lecturing. For the love of God, please.
Agreed. So say we all.
So say we all. Well, safe travels, Melissa, and we look forward to you returning and reporting on your future adventures.
Thank you. I will do my best to stay in touch over the next couple weeks, and then we can resume the full version of the Salty Hose.
I love it. I love it. Until then, everybody, stay salty, and we'll speak to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.